Evening once again, and that means it's time for another live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast, episode 56 coming your way. We got some big topics to discuss, a little bit of Auburn potpourri, and of course, we're going to talk a little bit with you before and after. All that coming up right now. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for being here. Whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, however you got here, whenever you got here, we appreciate you hanging out with us. I'm your host, Kyle Loomis, and chair number 2 over there, back in the saddle, Mr. Austin Scott. What's going on, sir?
What's going on? War Eagle to you, Kyle. War Eagle to all our viewers, listeners, fans, haters, everyone in between. We don't have any of those.
I'm sure
glad to be
there's
back
someone.
on a good Sunday night. Oh, I'm sure we got a couple. I'm sure there's a heavy Vanderbilt contingent out there who doesn't like us. They definitely weren't at the game, but if they're out there, they're watching us online.
Firing on all cylinders like 1 minute into the show. I mean, look, doesn't it make you feel bad to take shots at Vanderbilt? I mean,
No,
it's
look,
Vandy.
they know their place. They know their place. They'll come baseball season, they'll hand it to us, and they'll be happy for a little while. Or come basketball season, we'll hear about them from their weird corner of the gym. But I mean, they'll be okay.
Well, two things. Butch Thompson has made it so that's not a foregone conclusion in baseball.
It's not.
Vanderbilt is,
It's not.
is fair game when Butch Thompson is here running the baseball program. And dare you never again bring up that monstrosity of a basketball stadium.
Horrible.
They did it to me last night somehow in the football post-game stream and got me all riled up about it. Don't talk about it. It's awful. It's gross. It's nasty. It's one of the most, like the 7 wonders of the world. Like it's the grossest wonder of the world or something like that.
It's a disgrace to John Naismith himself. He rolls in his grave every time they play.
Well said. Well put. That's the best way to actually say that. So anyway, getting started off with a rant this evening. We'd love to know if you're here hanging out with us, talking, even if it's on the replay. Make sure you post where you're watching from, your city, your state. If you're international, you can do that as well. We just want to know who's here hanging out. For the first couple minutes here, we can take some comments and questions that you might like for us to address personally. And then I'll be hanging out a little bit after our 30-minute show, which will get started in about 3 or 4 minutes here, to talk a little bit more with you all. So we got WT already checking in. Good to see you. Unbeaten Lake says getting into the stadium and getting out of the stadium was interesting, though. Have you ever been to Vanderbilt Stadium?
I've not. It's one I can't believe I haven't been to. It's just an easier trip for many of the SEC stadiums. But I mean, it's also we don't play there very often either. So just haven't gotten it up there at a time. But it looks like things are quite under construction, from what I could see. So I don't doubt that it was an interesting entrance and exit for Unbeaten Lake there and many others. I hope you had your hard hat on.
Yeah, literally. The jokes just write them. I mean, if you're a Vanderbilt fan and you already know that you're the butt of the SEC, like,
yeah,
you would think these things are thought through so they didn't set up the jokes for Vanderbilt. I mean, gone are the days of James Franklin being there and making them at least, not a foregone conclusion. And nothing against Clark Lee. Like, I mean, he may get this thing turned around, but like I said, the jokes just write themselves. Devin checking in with a good roundabout here, a good roundup of everything. Great win for football yesterday. Great win for volleyball today. Been a good weekend for Auburn. I believe baseball won their games yesterday too. Football ball.
You just want to host potpourri, Devin? I mean,
I know.
You go right ahead. Just come on. We'll have potpourri with Devin as our spotlight.
Just cover it all in there at the very beginning of the show, and our jobs are now done. So we can what we'll do is the first 10 minutes of the show, we'll just sit there staring blankly at the screen and see how many viewers we lose.
That's what they do at Vanderbilt. They stare at each other to see who's smarter.
I mean, listen, they will always have that on everybody else in the SEC. Now,
the little chart that's like, how much do your graduates make?
Yeah,
they got us.
I will say Auburn's kind of, in terms of there's Vanderbilt and everybody else. Auburn's kind of at the top of that list, especially in some very
top third. Yeah,
it's a very key area. Engineering.
Probably all those podcast content creators and private school social media specialists.
Yeah, well, I guess we we bring it up a notch or we bring it down a notch too. I don't know. They made everyone go through the basketball court and leave through the baseball field. You're not serious, are you?
See, they tried. They tried to. I mean, they thought that would be intimidating, but it really just revved us up. We
That's
looked
just
inside that
offensive.
monstrosity of a court, and we said, "Not today, Vanderbilt. Not
That
today."
that is just offensive. If they truly made you walk through the basketball court, I think he's being funny. But I mean, I can think of no greater insult than to walk through that. I'm not even calling it an arena, monstrosity. Anyway, okay, look, we're gonna talk about basketball in the show. We're gonna
Yeah,
talk about that place in Nashville. I You know, I always say I want to go visit all of the football stadiums in the SEC, which 2 more are being added next year. I kind of
right.
have that. I wouldn't say I have that goal for the base,
Basketball.
maybe the baseball things too, but it would be nice to maybe start that. That one will be last on my list. I always said, Tuscaloosa would be the last one on that football list, the of all of the list. The Vanderbilt
Yeah,
will be the
fair
last.
enough.
All of that stuff. All right. We're about 6 minutes into the show, so I think we are well equipped and warmed up to get things started. Most of you know the drill. 30-minute show, 10-minute-ish segments, a little potpourri. We're going to talk about post Vanderbilt celebration, not therapy. And then we're going to look to basketball. The season officially begins this week, looking at that matchup up in South Dakota with Baylor and just kind of
So weird.
it is weird, but I love it. We'll talk about it. And then obviously at the end of the show, we'll catch back up with some of the views, or I will, and Austin will head off into the sunset to do all the things that he needs to do. With that being said, Austin, are you ready, sir?
Ready to go.
In 3, 2, 1. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it and qualify that experience in a variety of people, places, experiences, and things. But at its heart, at its core, it is all about our sports. It is all about our culture. And of course, it is all about the Auburn family. And because it's all about Auburn family, we got to be here with the family members to discuss things. I'm your host again, Kyle Loomis, and co-host in chair number 2, back again, Mr. Austin Scott, ready to discuss the Auburn experience for episode 56. How you doing, sir?
War Eagle, Kyle, doing well. Hope you're doing well. Happy to be back. As you said pre-show, we're not here for therapy. We've had a great weekend in Auburn athletics and Auburn Experience world. It feels like fall. We're ready to roll, and I'm excited for this episode. We've got a lot to talk about, tons to unpack, and it's all about the Auburn experience, as you said. So we've got plenty to come off of to talk about of this weekend through the Auburn experience. So I'm looking forward to it.
You said that fall has arrived. I will unashamedly at this point, because I'm just owning it at this point, tell you that Christmas may or may not have arrived at E2C
No,
Network
no,
headquarters. Yes,
no,
yes,
no, no,
yes,
no,
yes,
no.
yes.
Look, you had me on the whole whenever autumn or fall starts. No, I put my foot down on Christmas. We have an incredible holiday in Thanksgiving
We
that
do.
must not be overlooked. It is important, and I will not allow no. This podcast will not be celebrating Christmas until at least Black Friday.
How about this? There is no, I do have a few things this year. In fact, there's something down here in the floor right now. I'm not going to bring up because I can't. First of all, I can't reach it. It look
I
really
know. I
awkward.
bet I know what it is.
What do you think it
And
is?
it is it not what we? I thought it was something last year that made its appearances on our podcast.
Did it make an appearance last year?
I thought it did.
Maybe
Maybe
it
not.
did. Oh, maybe I don't
It
know. We'll
doesn't
see.
matter because it's not Christmas time and we're not talking about it.
Well, we will have some decorations behind me. I had some lights we did at one point. This is a new setup and stuff, so I don't know how much it'll appear. But Christmas has arrived here, even though fall has just arrived in South. So you can
Ooh.
be grumpy like Austin, or you can be celebratory in all things of the holidays.
Or
Thanksgiving
thankful. You can
and
be thankful and grateful until we get a win on the Iron Bowl. All right, let's move on.
all right, all right. That's I didn't think that's how we were going to start tonight, but here we are. Plenty of things for us to talk about. We're going to save some of the bigger topics, but we will start with Auburn potpourri, and let's talk about maybe some of these things we could cover in the big topics, but these are kind of minor things within that. Can we just give credit to the Auburn family for taking over Nashville? I mean, what a showing. Absolute showing. And look, if you follow some of the things that we posted at E2C Network about that during the game, you're seeing all the trolls now coming out. We everybody does that. What are you getting all excited about? Oh, I mean, sorry, that's probably exactly how they sound. Folks, just go off to your little dog houses, your little, I don't know, whatever y'all call where y'all live, these other fans and things like that. But
Trailer
it
parks,
was pretty
outhouses.
cool. Yes. It was pretty cool to see. Is it fair to say 50-50 split
50.
for
Oh
Auburn?
gosh, I would have gone higher. Everything I've seen looked higher than 50-50. I mean, the whole thing only holds like 14 people in the stadium. But I mean, it certainly looked like the big video that's been going around that our platform shared is the Auburn on one side, Tigers on the other. There wasn't much black and gold I could see from that video. So 50-50 might be generous to the Commodores.
Yeah, we talked a lot about this pre-show, just about how embarrassing it is for Vanderbilt, and it just never seems to stop for them. I mean, I can't. As bad as things have been for Auburn in the last 2.5 years, they've never gotten that bad.
Can you imagine? Like, can
Just
you imagine every single year?
every single year, unless you have James Franklin, which and let's save that for the football discussion about the
Sure,
game and kind of
sure.
the series history and all that kind of stuff. So there's that part of it as well. Let's talk a little bit about basketball first impressions. We're going to talk about the upcoming game and a little bit of a preview, but first exhibition game versus AUM, which, by the way, I started my college career, well, academic career, but I did sit on the bench for a year at AUM and was a member of the basketball team there. So that was an interesting thing for me to see them actually playing. I wish I had been able to go to.
Were your allegiances divided? Did you feel
No,
pulled towards?
absolutely not. In fact, I think a couple of years
I just
after.
remember being asked that when the Akron Zips came to town, so I just felt like I needed to make sure
No,
that I was asking if your allegiances were in check for the exhibition game.
but how can my allegiances be in checked if they're literally Auburn? Like, I mean,
Well, yes,
they're,
but they're the War Hawks, not the War Eagles.
but
So
their
I just want
degrees
to
are
make sure.
signed by Chris Roberts.
Well, I'm just saying, we played them and they played us, and they did not want us to win. And you were a member of that team, so I'm just making sure.
And most, I think, if not all, the staff and definitely all the players are gone from that time. So any
Yeah.
affinity that I would have to that, and let me just tell you this: we were the Senators when I was there, not the Warhawks. So
Oh, did that get? Well, we're not going to get into that. Was that
lit,
a?
no, it wasn't one
Oh,
of
they
those
just
things that
wanted to change. Okay.
we all wanted it to change. I mean, we all walked around campus, we're like, what is this? Like, who wants to be a senator? I mean, like,
There's nothing wrong
woo,
with
let's
senator,
go
by the way.
legislate.
Yeah.
War legislate. That's what we're gonna do. Anyway,
Sign that bill.
sign that bill.
Warhawks is much better, even though it's not a real thing. Is a
Yes.
Warhawk a real thing, Birdman?
No, it is not there's no such thing
Okay.
as a
Well,
Warhawk, but it's a pretty
never
awesome
mind.
name. I'm not gonna
It is
lie.
cool.
It's pretty dang cool. So very successful, a little bit scary in terms of some injuries and things that happened.
Mm.
Um, it just doesn't seem like sometimes we can, to quote our favorite show, you just can't have nothing sometimes. I
You
mean,
can't you can't have nothing. No, yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, there was not streamed anywhere, right? Like, you couldn't watch it, you could, only listen to the radio, or follow along on social media, and I'll be honest, I was not, uh, able to follow along closely, but I was kinda catching up, and when I saw, "Alright, here's the tip-off," and, like, the next couple posts were like, "And John Broom's going to the locker room." I'm like, "Oh, boy."
oh
I'm
no, it's
like,
just
"Here we go."
why?
Yeah, all seems to be, okay. Obviously, didn't get to play the rest of the game, which really stinks, but, um, Bruce Pearl said it, before the game that they were gonna work on things for them. It might not be the best way to beat AUM, but they were gonna work on things they needed to work on. Luckily, there was no issue given the talent discrepancy between the two, and Auburn did well. But some things to work on, some things I think we all kind of expected to see struggles in, but looks like we got plenty to build on. I think it's going to be a really fun and really talented team this year. That we'll go shoot through some growing pains, and hopefully we'll get all healthy here soon. But
Yeah.
a fun group and a good start to the season, unofficial
But
start.
right, and plenty more to talk about that coming up here in the show. Some more basketball discussion. Maybe our last big small discussion here, but it is a big discussion, and this will, I think, not divide. Maybe it will,
No,
but it will create a lot of opinions about a particular topic that has become more increasing at SEC college sports in general, but SEC sports. The purchase and sale of alcohol has now officially begun at Auburn
officially.
University. Officially, we have seen the pictures. It has been purchased by some individuals, I'm sure, already. And you can now, it was the basketball game first. It hasn't come to Jordan-Hare. Am I correct in that, Austin?
Yeah, I don't know if the university has said anything. It sounds like maybe next year for the Jordan-Hare, but we know for a fact it is in Neville Arena, and along with some other additions and new things that
Right.
Rhett Hobart, we gotta shout him out because
Yeah.
I mean, that man doesn't sleep.
It is not.
Has been adding to different facilities, but the coolers are full. It looks like in Neville Arena with alcoholic beverages now.
So the big topic, I guess, not controversy, but discussion about this is this the right move? Now, in terms of a business strategy, in terms of what is the demand is, it's a no-brainer, right? Like,
Sure.
I mean, people are going to buy that. This people sneak those beverages into football games all the time. And sometimes they're little bottles that you find on the backs of toilet seats when
Yep.
you try to go to the restroom. And usually when I say one, there's about 50 in there. And usually if you're down in the lower bowl, it's from all the frat brothers that think that they're being slick. Should I tell this story? No, I'll save it for another day.
Oh, yeah.
A story just I would get maybe a fraternity in trouble. But, how I nearly got them kicked out because anyway, that's leave it here to there. Talking about this, you know, I have my personal feelings about this. I think most people who know me well, I know I'm not one to partake of the alcohol. That's a personal choice. I don't necessarily judge anybody that chooses to do so. I have concerns about what that brings to the table in terms of the being people able to legally now purchase and have that in the stadium. But I also understand it from the business standpoint.
Right.
And so there's this new push and drive and move to make the experiences at Jordan-Hare, Neville Arena. I'm assuming soon Plainsman Park, Jane B. Moore. I don't know if we'll have that at Jane B. Moore, but
The
I
swimming and aquatic center.
busting out a cooler at the I mean, can you hold on. I've just got a picture in my mind. They put in a new pool over there next to it, and it's actually like freezing, literally freezing cold. And they
Yeah.
got, whatever your
Just
beverage of choice,
bob
just
in there and
bobbing.
get what you want.
The new vent. You now can participate at swimming and diving and dive for your beverage of choice. So here we go. Even if you don't necessarily agree with the decision, we're having fun with it.
Hey, we can come up. Rhett, we got an idea. We
We
got the
got it,
ideas
man.
for you.
Let's look. These wheels will keep turning. They may not turn in the right direction, but they're gonna turn. Thoughts, opinions about this to wrap
Yeah,
up?
you and I are on a similar vein. I think we both would agree this was probably inevitable at some point, especially for football. I think as it looks like it's headed that way. Um, I hope that there's maybe some precautions and guidelines set of maybe what we can maybe we as in the staff that is stocking and taking care of the concessions maybe has the authority if somebody needs to be cut off they can be cut off, so we're keeping everyone safe inside the arena and
Yeah,
outside the arena on the way home. I think that this has been done I know this has been done with careful consideration. I think Auburn has been, if not the last one in the SEC, one of the last to kind of roll this out, which is not surprising at all with the leadership in place and with athletics. Um, I think that it will be good for business. We'll have to see on how it does with the atmosphere and how things might change for better or for worse. But I think that there's an argument people and it's a legitimate one. People have been sneaking it in for years. Um, but does that really mean that we should just let it all in free willy? We'll find out. So I think we'll have to see how it goes.
a Free Willy reference, fresh off the swimming and diving, bobbing for your drinks reference.
Only the best here at the Auburn Experience.
Only the best here at the Auburn Experience. Well, we're going to move into our big topic segment tonight. We're going to talk a little bit of post-game assessment of the football team after Vanderbilt, and of course, look ahead to the beginning of yet another wonderful basketball season under Coach Bruce Pearl. Big topic number one tonight. We got to win, folks. 2 in a row. We cannot take these for granted, folks. These are not times where you go, yeah, you beat Vanderbilt, so what? Folks, we got 2 wins in a row after 2.5 years where basically you, unless you're playing your New Mexico States, your UMasses, your Sanfords, whatever. Sorry, Austin Sanfords, it's in that category, at least when compared to Auburn, but well, it is what it is.
Well, we won't get into that. We've already gone through the allegiances talk.
So Auburn beat Vanderbilt enough, I think, is a fair way to say it. Should it have been more? There's a case there. You see the score, 31-15. Your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, you see the score, you think Auburn got a road win in the SEC. I think that should be your first thought. That is not a foregone conclusion. I don't care if it's Vanderbilt in their little high school stadium. You have to make sure that you take care of business where you want to take care of business in the SEC, and Auburn did that. You watch the game, and you see plenty of missed opportunities for Auburn to handle that game and put it well out of hand early before halftime, and they weren't able to do. I think a good and bad part of that, and a good and bad takeaway you can take of a lot of it was Auburn self-inflicted. A lot of it is Auburn, out of their control things. Maybe they did get on the muff punt. Maybe they didn't. Maybe that penalty was worth it. Maybe it wasn't. Or maybe that penalty was legitimate. Maybe it wasn't. And then you think, well, they did drop that pass. They did drop that wide open touchdown. They did jump a little too early. All those things, yes, are not good. All those things are also things Vanderbilt didn't really do to affect Auburn. So in a perfect world, those get fixed in practice. Those get fixed in the film room. Those get fixed this week before you go on the road again. Mm-hmm. Not to say that that's going to happen overnight. I think if you've followed Auburn football at all the last few years, you would realize things do not happen overnight, no matter how simple it may seem from our couches. So I think you can be pleased with a win. I think you can also be a little lacking in wishing there was something more that had happened too. But all in all, Auburn beat Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt, something that has been a struggle the last century, or during this century for Auburn. But they got the job done, and they did what they needed to do, and Auburn's back above 500, 1 win away from a bowl game.
Here's what's happened over the last 2 weeks, folks. Auburn has established itself as not at the bottom of the SEC on both sides, because we just played the bottom of the SEC at both sides and beat both of them. Now, look, we got to beat Arkansas to make sure that we're not going to be like tied for the bottom next week,
right?
Of the SEC West in the last year of it. But we have at least established that we have not fallen to that level. Vanderbilt, I'm sorry, let me just say this. Auburn has had probably arguably its most inefficient, unproductive, sad 2.5 years in quite some time. And we still couldn't do worse than Vanderbilt.
Yep.
How do you, sometimes I don't want to be mean to Vanderbilt, but I just want to have some of them on and just talk, how do you do it? As a football fan, we can leave the other sports aside because they have success there, and they have some really good success there. But outside of that, how do you do it? How do you go to a stadium where you literally don't even have end zones? And if you saw the mock-ups, it's going to look pretty good. I mean,
it is going to look pretty good. I mean, it's going to, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I was about to. It's going to look pretty good, and it looks like that's some nice club level seating. But that's the people I want on to talk about. I'm like, you are a big time donor to Vanderbilt football, sir.
Why?
I have twins. I'd love to take your money. What? Tell me, sir, what possibly provoke you to continue donating to Vanderbilt football? I need to know. Is it just that it's like, well, I just love my school? Is it like, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do with this money, because I have something you can do with that money? I need to know. Are they just overly generous? Are they just those wishful thinkers that think someday this is going to get turned around? Someday the doors are going to blow the doors off the rest of the college football world, and we're going to be on top. I don't know. Bless those little nerds' hearts.
I equate that to people that regularly, and I mean regularly, play the lotto. Today's the day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Today's the day. And I love that you said what provoked you to financially support Vanderbilt football in this way, not inspired you. What provoked
you? Somebody, they must have, I mean, whatever Vanderbilt Commodores Unlimited up there, they got some good sales pitches, I guess.
Anchor down, baby.
Anchor down, throw that money into this hole, and we'll just keep on digging.
I mean, okay, look, we got to stop being mean. I mean, at this point, but in fairness, Auburn's not had the opportunity to kind of dig a little bit at an SEC opponent. So unfortunately, Vanderbilt, you're the victim of that this evening. I want to talk about the drops. The drops of the receivers. I think it's
gracious.
I know. You know, I think it was only 5, to be fair.
Only 5?
I think. And so I heard that stat. I could have. What?
They just dropped another one.
Oh, okay. I thought he was about to correct me on the stat line. But I think I read that today, that it was actually only 5 drops. But I guess it felt like more because they were in some very key and crucial moments. You know, all the sometimes fair criticism of Peyton Thorne this year and all the, critiques of that. I think that's a good reminder of, hey, the problem is much bigger than the quarterback. The problem's much bigger than offensive line, as critical as I am of that.
Yeah.
And you think back, I forget her name. I don't know who to quote it to. We talked about this in a recent live stream too. It was a lady, I want to call her a beat writer because I think she works for a bigger publication like ESPN or something like that, came to visit Auburn in spring. And she sent out this social media message and said, fans, you might want to be worried about your wide receiver core. And we all, I jumped on her, everybody jumped on her, you don't even know. And look, we're not trying to sit here and dog the wide receivers because they've had some great moments. It was so great to see Javaris Johnson have a game like we're used to with him because he's been battling injuries and things like that. Good to see Camden Brown, after all the hype that's been around him, show up a lot more. We know Rivaldo Fairweather he's a tight end, but still part of the receiver core. He had a couple of drops that were very crucial in that moment. It's just one of those things that's why are these small things still happening? And it's just frustrating because I know it's frustrating for Peyton and Robbie when he's getting in there too. I know it's frustrating for the offensive line when they set up good blocks for the quarterback. It's just you get one thing figured out with the offense and the other thing's not clicking. It's like this little circle. Yeah. All right, we got this figured out this week. Nope, let's go around. So it's just frustrating sometimes.
It is, and I think you said it best. The biggest thing it can put into perspective is that the offense, a competent offense in the SEC is not just one person's fault. You talked about it's frustrating for Peyton Thorne when he throws a perfect ball and it is going to be a touchdown in the hands. And it's dropped
in the hands.
But we can go back and say it's how frustrated can the receivers be when X quarterback decides to not look up and misses them wide open, or doesn't see them at all.
Waving their hand. I am in the end zone. Exactly. Give me the ball. Nobody here.
Which is, I'm sure it's happened. I can't point to a certain time, but I'm sure it's happened. It could have happened this weekend. I'm sure there was somebody open that was not seen this weekend. We could point to the same thing, though, with a quarterback frustrated his offensive line when he knows he's going to have a great play set up. They can't get a block. So I think you can point blame certain points, and as we've been so critical on the quarterbacks or the offensive line when it's been so obvious, this week it was the receivers it was just painfully obvious. In crucial moments that the drops were there. I don't know how you fix that. If I did, I would hope I'd be a receiver coach somewhere. But I think it's got to be a point of emphasis this week in practice. Right. That film room's not going to be fun to watch with Marcus Davis and Phil Montgomery and Hugh Freeze. I would think that is going to be there's going to be a lot of people sunk back in their chairs waiting on their drop to hit the screen.
Yeah.
But
if you're if you're Marcus Davis, you walk into the room with the clicker in hand, you walk in and immediately drop it as you walk in, just to
absolutely.
just to start things off. So,
You would just walk in with the clicker, say, Amari, catch this. Oh my gosh. Okay.
oh, sorry,
And
sorry about that. Anyway, all right, look, enough. They've had some great moments. They're going to do better. We know it is.
they will.
End on a positive note here. Jarquez, boy, have a game. I
Oh my
mean,
gosh. Feed him. Feed him.
just let him cook. I'm using that way too much these days. It's one of the new young kids sayings that I'm using a lot. Let him cook. Jarquez Hunter said, "This is Vanderbilt, and I will show you why it's Vanderbilt." Just busting out, and the offensive line opened up some holes
Yes.
for him. And how many times have I said this? Give Jarquez a window and then let him cook. Like, just let him do
Yeah.
what he does. He is such a well-rounded back. He is fast. He is slippery. He has got enough power to have guys jump on his back and on that second run and throw him off and keep going and then use his burst of speed. How awesome was it to see him break out again?
Awesome. And that's what we have expected to see from him. He's put it together in the last few games. And I think a big part of it is he has all those things you mentioned. Coach Freeze mentioned it post game. He is being more patient with waiting for that hole, trusting his offensive line. And when he's patient enough to find that hole and trust where the play is supposed to go, he's seeing the success that's coming for him. I think,
Yep.
I think at one point he had 3 carries, 120 yards, and 2 of them were touchdowns.
Yep.
That's what you'd like to see from one of the best running backs in this league. And Auburn is going to need him to continue to be that successful down the stretch. It was really good to see, really awesome to see from him, and it only helps the other backs. We saw another touchdown from Jeremiah Cobb. We saw Damari Alston get back in the game. That running back core benefits when Jarquez Hunter is doing Jarquez Hunter things.
And Brian Battie didn't have a great game. Not that he got a lot of opportunities to show anything in this game, but we know what he is capable of with his special skill
Correct.
set. So that's just a great group there. So whether it's a quarterback having less breathing down his back in Peyton Thorne and finding a little bit of more strides, even on the road, not perfect, but good. Running back room that is just producing, offensive line that seems to be putting something a lot more quality together. You put a wide receiver core together with a few less drops. No, not a few more, please. A few less drops. I'm not saying this is the greatest offense in the world, folks, but I'm saying this is a very serviceable offense that can make things a big problem, especially if your defense shows up, which they typically do. So if you're Arkansas, especially if you're New Mexico State at home, and if you're Alabama coming in Jordan Hare, do not take this team lightly because they are about to be bowl eligible, hopefully, if we take care of business. And they found a little bit of a stride. So all good vibes after
Yes.
Vanderbilt, with still plenty to work on. And I'm sure we'll talk about that next week. Tonight, it's still football season.
Oh, but it's here.
But it's here. Basketball season has arrived, folks. Those of you that know me well, you know that this is my sport. And look, I love watching college football more than anything. But for me, the cerebral nature that I think if you are a basketball player at any level that you understand, especially if you played at higher levels of the chess match that happens, it's such a fast-paced chess match that happens in the game. You get excited when basketball season officially returns. And folks, this week, depending on when you're watching this clip or this portion of the episode listening, it may already have happened. Auburn basketball is going to South Dakota.
Do what?
South Dakota
what?
To take on the Baylor Bears. So a marquee matchup.
Where are the Baylor Bears located?
Texas. Yeah. And Auburn's in Alabama.
Yep.
But I know a few people that listen to the podcast that live up in that direction. They're very happy to have it in their vicinity.
I'm sure.
Now, from what I understand, I forget the name of this opening event, and you see this all over the country the first weekend
Oh, yeah.
of it's
And
not a kickoff, the tip-off and Thanksgiving tip-off events, things like that. It's a special thing. Apparently, they've been playing some great basketball up at this event, is my understanding, over the last couple of years. And I think this is Baylor's second year in a row to come back here too. So obviously they loved having them there. Before we talk about the matchup and maybe just an overall preview of the season, kind of looking ahead, you okay with this? I mean, like, South Dakota and Auburn basketball just doesn't seem like it fits together, but hey, here we are.
Hey, here we are. I'm okay with it because it's a thing Auburn has been invited to. It's a thing where someone saw value in inviting Auburn University and Auburn Athletics to their event because it would make them money and it would put Auburn in exposure, and they knew that would help them because they know the Auburn fan base, they know the Auburn program and tradition, they know Bruce Pearl. So yeah, I'm good with it. South Dakota is a very long way away from me, and it is very interesting. I don't think I've ever heard of any sporting event that I care about happening in South Dakota until now. So I think
Yeah.
it's cool. I'm game. I really don't know what to say about it except that
That it's South Dakota.
excited for Auburn to have the opportunity to go and see South Dakota and this team to go see. Is Mount Rushmore in South Dakota
I I don't know. I should know
or
that.
North Dakota?
I think it's South
That's the
Dakota.
thing. Nobody knows
I
because
because
it's South Dakota and North Dakota. It's like it's up there in one of them. Just go see the four presidents on the
and the
rock.
viewership of the Dakotas just went down on this show, if we had any.
All right.
Look,
Yeah,
we've had
that's
people
right. If we had any, because who's up there? We don't know.
in very far international places that I'm like, "You watched the show?" They're like, "Yeah, we watched the show." So anyway, so we've got somebody up
Basketball game
there.
there.
I don't know, maybe at this point. We played in Italy, we played in Europe, in preseason stuff. So who's to say we won't do it someday? They have a tip-off event in Alaska every year. Auburn has played in that before, so that might be the more obscure
For
thing.
that. No, that's cool. That's cool.
Is it though? When you're that far up in Alaska,
Yeah,
not a,
Alaska's cool.
out.
You could it's different weather and South Dakota. I mean,
There's no
look,
sun
I've
up
never
there.
been to South Dakota, so there's sun.
There's sun, not
Sometimes
during the
there's always
winter.
sun.
Down during the winter, certain
No,
part of in Alaska up there, up in the very top part, there's
winter
no
though in
sun.
Alaska yet?
What's that?
In the northern part of Alaska,
In the
yeah.
northern part of Alaska,
Well,
there's no sun.
that's basically Antarctica, or
Well,
no, that's
oh
basically the North
wow,
Pole.
oh wow,
Where
that's embarrassing for you. Oh, that's embarrassing for you.
obviously I don't have a Vanderbilt education.
It all comes back around. All right. This is a great matchup to start off because Baylor is one of those programs right now where you're like, yeah, you recognize the name. They've won a national championship recently with an Auburn player. You couldn't ask for a better matchup, even in an obscure quote unquote place, if you want to call it that. I don't think we should call it obscure. It's just a little bit odd. I think this is going to be quite a challenge. We don't know what to make of this team outside of an exhibition matchup with AUM and preseason, practices that have been open and discussions and things like that. I mean, what's your gut telling you? I mean, I think conventional wisdom would say Baylor's favored here, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. Conventional wisdom says that Auburn is probably figuring a little more things out than Baylor is at this time. I think there's some, Baylor's, like you said, been over the last decade has been one of those basketball household names that you expect to be contending for a 1 seed, can expect to be contending in a very, very good Big 12 conference. Auburn's played them. I went out there for the Big 12 Challenge, 3 years ago ish? Three,
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Was it? Did we beat Baylor? I know we
We did
lost.
not. That was 2020 because it was the Sharif Cooper year.
That was it. Okay, that the timeline's starting to come back now. But yeah,
it's a good leveling or measuring stick for this Auburn team to see where they're at with a bunch of new faces to start the year. Auburn staff with Bruce Pearl and all his assistants have never been one to shy away from a tough non-conference schedule. They are hitting it right off the bat here with Baylor. I'm excited to see where we measure up with this team. In the big scheme, does it matter too much the outcome of this game? Probably not. I feel like we see that a lot with the big teams losing early on every year. And it's just basketball so much about chemistry and figuring out who works in what situations. And early in the year, that's going to be tough to figure out. So that could bode well for Auburn. It could also, we just see that maybe there's not the talent level hasn't quite developed to reach a team like Baylor yet. But I'm excited for it because if anything else, we're going to see where Auburn's at against a really good team.
And look, you look at it this way. This can, if you win, obviously it extremely helps Auburn, but it obviously helps you figuring out where you're kind of in a pecking order at the start of the season. And everybody's still just figuring these things out too. So as you said, whatever the result is, don't overreact. If Auburn beats Baylor, don't it's national championship. We're going to Final Four again. If we lose and by a comfortable margin, don't overreact there too. This is still a long way. It's a neutral site. If you do get the win, it does obviously help you in terms of resume building. I mean, already you've got that. When you look at a non-conference resume going into March Madness, you want to already have that checked that would be a nice checkbox to have there, even not knowing what Baylor will do
Right.
the rest of the season. I'm cautiously optimistic about this team, and even more so than last year for some reason. And I have no idea why, because there was all the hype with that European tour. There was all the, speculation about what we could end up doing by the end of the season. There's not been a lot of that, I think, this season, but there's been a lot of, I think, cautious optimism. I mean, you think it's fair? I mean, would you
I
still
think
be more on the cautious side? Like, where are you at on this?
I'm cautious, mainly just because of how many new faces there are. Like, that can take some time to gel together. But when it does, I think that's something to be excited about. I think the talent on this team is undeniable. I don't think I'm not quite sure about Aiden Holloway's status, but I think and then we've already discussed Janai Broom getting hurt in the exhibition game and getting banged up a little bit. So, I'm cautiously optimistic about this team as a whole once they get to figure out where they need to get. I really think by SEC play, I'm hopeful that we'll be super optimistic about where this team is at and competing in a really hard league. But the talent's there. The transfers brought in, the recruiting, high school recruiting that's happened brought in, is incredibly talented. Putting it together will be where it is. Thankfully, we've got an incredible coach who knows how to do that. So, cautiously optimistic. I like where I'm at there too.
And there's a good group of guys that have been here for a while. This is going to be their final
Yep.
year. If I've got all my, years right for all these guys, Dylan Cardwell, Katie Johnson, Chris Moore.
Your guy.
Yeah. My
You're
guy.
missing your guy.
Leor?
No. You're missing your guy, Jalen.
Oh my God. Oh
my gosh, Kyle. My gosh.
Jalen, I'm so sorry. Jalen. I'm shook right now. I forgot my guy.
I can tell.
Look, I think it's just like a foregone conclusion now that I know Jalen Williams is going to do Jalen Williams things, that I'd say it so much. I type it out on E2C Network so much that it's just like, I don't even have to think about it. I didn't even think of that so much. I forgot
this is
about
like his 6th year, so I can't believe you.
It is his 6th year. Jalen, I am so sorry. I think, unfortunately, I now will not be able to argue with people who is the biggest fan of Jalen Williams. Yes, Jalen Williams will be back, and I am super excited about that. So plenty of new names and plenty of familiar names to celebrate this year.
Am I right that we both have Baylor ties as well?
We do. We do have both have Baylor ties. Yeah, unfortunately, I do.
Yeah,
Sorry, brothers.
It's your brother and my mother, I think, are both for Baylor Bears.
I may or may not have a Baylor Bear basketball shirt in my closet that my brother gave to me as a joke, and I think I wore it once to like get dirty in, just because I didn't care about it. But it's in the closet. It's in there.
I've got a Baylor basketball T-shirt in my closet as well. And the other day, I almost put it on. It's very comfortable. I almost put it on. I was like, no. I mean, this is very fresh, very new.
It's kind of
when
itchy,
they play Alabama, one day it'll be a perfect shirt to have on that day. But it's like they are the enemy in 48 hours. So what time is that game, Kyle? I'm putting you on the spot.
I haven't been looking at that. I mean, no, look, I can work on the spot because I'm always
not
on
like
the spot.
Super late weird time, like South Dakota
9
normal time. Oh my God.
Eastern time.
Oh, Eastern. Okay.
9 Eastern.
That's not as bad.
Yeah, for me it will be. But and actually I will be in Central Time that day, I think. So it will be a little bit easier.
The best time.
Yeah, it is. And I trust
Central Time is the best time.
Anyway, we've talked about a variety of things. We've insulted the Dakotas. We talked about East in the time switching back, and we didn't even get into that.
We didn't get into daylight savings. No.
To close, too, you didn't give us episode 56. Who are you giving the shout out to?
Avery Young. Avery Young is the best number 56 Auburn has. I love Avery Young. Avery Young has the infamous GIF.
Yeah,
my favorite. That's my favorite.
Did he? Oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't this. It was this.
No, he perfectly describes everyone else's reaction in that moment, and I just love that someone on the field as a member of the team felt the way I felt.
Because I think it was this, and then like he just puts his hands on his head. And it's just like I can't even fathom. And then the other great reaction is the Georgia coaches on their faces. So
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
all the things in that particular game.
Was Avery on TIC 6 or Georgia?
I don't know now. All those things kind of blur after
6.
time. I think it was the Georgia game.
Georgia?
I'm pretty sure he's going to do the lookup right now. While he's doing that, I'll set the table for the end of the show. Obviously, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us this evening, spending some time talking about all these things. You can find me on the X Twitter thing at Kyle Loomis 24, and of course, many other places as well. Did you find the answer? And then where can they find you?
It's the kick 6. It is the
Kick.
kick 6. Yeah, but
Well,
you can find me. It's okay. They're both valid reactions to the same event. So
and I also forgot Jalen Williams tonight, so I'm just firing on all cylinders. Where can they find you?
that's what happens when you talk about Vanderbilt too much. You can find me at Austin G Scott on X, Instagram, whatever the things. Mainly, you're going to see twin babies. That's about it.
Hey, that's all the good things right there.
All right.
All right. Well, thanks, folks, for tuning in to the episode 56, the Auburn Experience podcast. Till we talk to you again. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right, folks, that's the show. Thanks for tuning in. And Austin, final thoughts? Derogatory rebuttals?
I think I've had too many of those already tonight. They've insulted a lot of people this evening.
It's all right. Listen, man.
Vanderbilt, South Dakota. That's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad.
Could have been a lot worse. It will be one day, I'm sure. Let's go look and see. I thought I saw something.
Mr. Scott, the other Mr. Scott, complimented our variety of topics this evening. It was we bounced around a lot.
He also said Christmas does not start until the Monday after Iron Bowl. That was how it was growing up.
Christmas
in my house.
Christmas is always here in your hearts, folks.
It is always here in your hearts. It doesn't mean it's in your house.
No, it's in my house and it's outside my house too. I started that process
already.
No, listen. I am Clark Griswold, and I have to start my process. It is not completely out there, and I will tell you this: this week I ain't probably getting nothing done just because of other things outside of this. But the week after that is probably going to be the time. I have lights around the edge of my house. They're not on. But
at any point.
I mean, they were on tonight. I turned them on this evening to make sure that they were like working.
Gosh. When will you start having them on nightly?
Probably in a week and a half, 2 weeks.
So that's like what? The 19th. That's like Thanksgiving week.
Because to me, I have to have the whole thing set up before I do it on nightly. I'll tell you what. If I get 75% of my usual setup done, it'll be on nightly.
Gracious.
And I can.
Gracious. See, now Emily and I have talked about with this year, with the babies, like not having near as much time. They're great, Devin. Thank you for asking. That's so sweet. They, I mean, we can talk all night. They just get sick with everything, but they're doing great. They're very happy. And so do I. They're very happy. And they're a bunch of goobers. But I think Emily and I have talked about with our time not as free to us, that it'll probably start a little earlier this year. But one of our big traditions is getting our tree the Sunday after the Iron Bowl, after church. That's like our big thing. So I'm hoping we stick to that. I mean, this is the year I got to create traditions, and we are sticking to traditions as a family. So,
traditions could start earlier. And look,
they absolutely can. I'm just saying, like, this is the first one of Christmas is 4, and I'm like, it's all the things. But I can't believe you've already got some of your lights up.
Oh man, listen, I've been waiting. At Halloween, the second midnight hits on Halloween, I'm already thinking about it.
Good grief!
I may or may not have a diagram that I referenced for my setup outside.
I've never even heard of your setup. I didn't even know you had. I didn't know you were the Griswold of your neighborhood.
Oh, I'm trying to be, and I think I pretty much am. I don't think about it.
I need to see this.
I put the top and sides of the house in red. I create these blue icicle things coming down from the tall side of our house to the ground, which meets with some inflatables, Disney themed, of course.
Wow.
And then
is any of this Auburn themed? Do we have one Auburn thing?
There's not Auburn things outside. There are Auburn things in the house. We don't have an Auburn tree, but it might as well be because there's so much Auburn on it. We do have a Disney tree. with a monorail going around it already. So
I'm not surprised.
anyway, so yes, we'll get a picture up on here on the show when it's done.
Just
And
drop your address right now. It's all good. Make sure we can go drive by it.
you can't do that right now, and you know why. So
Please don't ever do that.
don't ever do that. All right. Well, Austin, thanks for hanging out with us and catching up with us a little bit.
All right, everybody, War Eagle.
All right, War Eagle to you, sir. All right, that's Mr. Scott. Thank you, guys. Mr. Scott, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Make your dream come true. All right, that was lame. That was awful. Enough. What do you guys want to talk about? Last few minutes here. We're about 50 minutes into the show. It was a crazy night, wasn't it? We talked about a lot of things, especially Christmas, which makes me happy. I got a little smudge on my screen. It's been bothering me. I'm trying to get it off. There we go. Oh, now it's all. Oh, that's ugly. What do you guys want to talk about? Pretty much anything is fair game, as you can tell in this stream. Obviously, want to talk about some Auburn things. And yes, if you're wondering, I know that the color behind me is more yellow this evening. See, it did it. It did the thumbs up thing, and I can't figure out how to make it happen when it happened again. What a wild show tonight. What a wild show. We always get our tree down first Saturday in December. November, baby. Man, I've just stopped being unashamed of it. I just love Christmas. And because I put so much setup and effort into my outside setup and even inside, I might as well enjoy it as much as I can. WT, outside shooting in the AUM game gives me hope for the season. Remember, though, it's one game, one exhibition game. Don't necessarily think that will translate over the rest of the season. It could. BP seems very encouraged about the outside shooting, which, let's be honest, it was not great for the last year. So and I think the year previous to that too wasn't that great either. So anything will be a big improvement. And it was definitely a part of Auburn's game that was lacking last year. Listening to the basketball exhibition game on the radio was so fun. Can't wait for Wednesday. You know, I'm glad you brought that up because I hate that every opportunity to watch an Auburn sporting event is on TV, even exhibition matches, games, meets, whatever, for any sport. But they do present a good opportunity for someone who prefers to watch the games, if you don't want to do the sync up radio thing, to just sit back and enjoy Funny Sonny and Andy Bertram go to work. And I think Brad Law is going to be more on the radio this year too, I think is what I heard. Maybe I heard that wrong. But yeah, good opportunity to just enjoy that. And I was not able this week. A lot of you have asked if we're going to be doing post-game streams for the basketball games. The plan is yes. And I know you guys are tired of me saying this, and you'll understand one day. It has just been a hectic few months and will continue to be so probably. So I can't really guarantee, especially this week, what will or won't happen. With that in mind, keep your comments and questions coming. The tentative plan, as always, is Wednesday evenings. We will do a Auburn Family Night live stream call-in show, a preview of the next football game, that being Arkansas on Thursday at 8 Eastern time, and then a post-game stream after the Arkansas game on Saturday. So make sure you're tuning into that, which will be about the same time as it was last Saturday, because we got that matchup time again. Not too bad, actually. Didn't mind that at all. So that's the tentative plans. I have a suspicion that Tuesday night is not going to be a good setup for me to do a post-game stream. I could be wrong. I'll be on the road. So I can't commit to that at this point, but I will try to do so. We still haven't seen any of Holloway yet. And one of those things that I would say, folks, be careful putting a lot of eggs in baskets about we're going to be this good. And I'm not saying you're saying this, Kevlar. I'm just using it as a talking point about putting eggs in baskets of things before they actually hatch. Everybody's like, Aiden Holloway's the answer we've needed at point guard. What happens if he gets hurt? You know, I mean, Trey Donaldson's going to be a great point guard. Seems like Denver Jones is going to get some time there as well. I think we're going to be fine at that position, different at that position this year. Hopefully we get to see Aiden Holloway, whatever's going on with him. Hopefully we could just stay relatively healthy this year. I think Auburn's got the depth mostly to withstand a few injuries, but they would put a big damper on some things. So yeah. What else? Any other topics, comments, questions about anything Auburn that you want to bring up? Last minute, get them in right now. Other reminders for you, if you haven't, please do consider supporting our content here. One of the things that you can do is be a channel member. Several of you fine folks are. You see the icons next to their names. All you got to do is hit the join button down below. $1 a month is all it takes. And you'll get access to our Discord through that. If you are currently a channel member and you haven't accessed the Discord, what are you doing? I see a couple of you on here that aren't on there. It should be pretty easy to find it on your member page, but I'll try to help if I can. But you can always email me at Kyle Loomis. Well, actually, I need to keep that. Anyway, hit me up on social media. You can find me there. Wow, I'm being so cryptic. What else? Yeah, so if you'd like to support us that way, you can certainly do so. And we appreciate those of you that can. Ankle hurt, is that what it was? Now, ankle injuries in basketball are not good. I can attest to that. I go to the doctor and he moves my ankle each time, just testing your joints and stuff. And he always goes, he's like, I forget you played basketball. I was like, yeah. He's like, my ankles are so elastic at this point because they've been stretched so far from ankle injuries that I injure them worse every time because they go so far now. I still love playing the game though. WT says, I think Thorne looks more comfortable at quarterback without all the switching out. I think so, but I also think it's time too. I think time supposedly heals all wounds, heals all problems. And I think that with a combination of less switching out has really helped Peyton Thorne. Still not perfect, still far from what we expected of him, but getting better. And on the road, even at Vanderbilt, you cannot take that away from him. Someone streaked the baseball field yesterday. Wait, at Auburn? I missed that one. Glad I missed it. Interesting. All right, folks, we're going to call it there. Just a few minutes early, but I think we covered everything that we need to tonight. Thank you guys for tuning in. And again, I thank you all for your patience, whether it's here on YouTube or social media. I know that you guys have noticed a smaller amount of content of late. It'll all make sense in due time, but I appreciate you guys still choosing to consume our content, to be here and be part of our little family, the best little family within the Auburn family. And until I talk to you guys again, as I try to stall to find all the things I need to find, War Eagle.